Good morning, everyone. Here we are again, and now we are going to talk about Portugal Bike Value, Abimota's lab support. But before that, I'm proud to announce that Portugal has been again #1 Europe's bicycle producer. In 2020, we produced about 2.5 million bicycles, and so for the second year, Portugal has been #1 in European bicycle producing. Okay, let's talk about Abimota's lab support. Today we are going to have with us Luís Pires, Leia Abimota's laboratory director. We'll have Jill Warren, CEO of ECF, European Cyclist Federation, and Cyro Gazola, da ABRACICLO, a Brazilian association of manufacturers of motorcycles, mopeds, scooters, bicycles, and similar. So, next few minutes are going to be held with Portugal Bike Value, Abimota's live support, and please go again. Yes, that's it. Thank you very much. So Abimota has founded a laboratory in about 27 years ago, and everyone knows that bicycles, conventional or electric, are transport vehicles used for leisure, work, sports, practice inside or outside competitions. As these are transport vehicles, it's necessary to ensure that the bicycle is a safe product. So we need someone to test, so European Commission thought its legal mechanism has defined that toy bicycles must comply with the Toy Directive and normative terms. Child bikes must comply with General Product Safety Directive, and of course in regulatory terms, and the conventional bikes must comply with General Product Safety Directive, and we have of course the ISO norms and so on, and the electric bikes, which are called EPAC, must comply with the Machinery Directive, and we have the norms, of course. And of course, these rules apply equally both to bicycles manufactured in Europe and to bicycles imported from outside European Union and offered for sale within the European market. This entire process is only possible to develop and demonstrate because there is a network of qualified laboratories to carry out these tests, which support components, manufacturers, and bicycle assemblers. So, Leia, Abimota's laboratory, is one of those laboratories. It has been created 27 years ago, but to talk about that, Luís Pires, the director of Abimota's laboratory, it's the right person. So, Luís, it's with you.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Luís Pires. I'm a director of Abimota Laboratory, and I try to present you what support we can do. The question today is what support can a laboratory give to a manufacturer in two-wheels sector, but specific for us, I try today explain in a few minutes for you what support can Abimota give to a manufacturer in two-wheels sector, because I think Abimota work a little difference in comparison with another laboratory. I think we have a most great range of offer for this sector. Okay, I'm start for explain for you what is the legal frame or the applicable standard for each type of bicycle. For the common people, don't know this, but for the manufacturer is important to say for each different type of bicycle, we have a specific legal frame and a specific applicable standard for each bicycle. For example, for start, we have the first one This is the first one. This is the balance bike for start with very young children without pedals, for example. For me, is a best way for learn to go on with bicycle. Is very good for the first step. The directive for this type of product is the same directive for the toys, with a specific mandate for the Commission. This standard is AN71, Dutch one, and this standard is published in the official journal with this number and this date. For this product, the CE marking is mandatory. Next one is the bicycle for children. The directive is the General Safety Product Directive with this mandate. This standard, the applicable standard is AN ISO 8098, and the citation of the official journal is in C335 in this date. The next one is the most common bicycle for the conventional bicycle, of course. The directive is the same for the children bikes, is a general product safety directive with the same mandate, with this a little difference in the journal, because this standard is a new edition, is 2015, but the main standard is AN ISO 4210-2. This is the main frame for the most common bicycle. For the EPAC bicycle is a little difference because they have electrical power, motor assisted. The directive is the machine directive with another different mandate, a specific citation of official journal, and the standard applicable is the European standard 15194. For these bikes, for the EPACs, the CE marking is also mandatory. And we have a new footer device. The term for all these devices is PMDs, personal mobility device. For these PMDs, the directive is a machinery directive in the AMC, the compatibility. We have two different mandates. We have we wait for the publication in the official journal, but they has time for that. And the applicable standard is AN 17128, is a recent one in the end of the last year. Abimota can give you support for all types of bicycle except the balance bike, because for work in this product we need work with a notified body specific for toys. In Portugal they have another company for that. Okay. Begin to start what is the standard or the legal frame for my bicycle. If I think like a manufacturer, we need to clarify who is the rules for define the typology of bicycle. What is the classification for my bicycle? For this is most important retain in mind this picture. This picture have three main points. Point one is the minimum insertion depth, is the stem of the saddle in this position. For sure, this coat edge is in the maximum saddle height, and we have the ground plane. The main position is this point H, is the intersection point in the superior surface of the saddle, and the X of these two for the saddle. Retain this picture in your mind. With this picture in mind, we have this table, and we have all configuration for all types of bicycles. If I have a maximum saddle height less than 435 millimeters, we have a balance bike. We must comply with the AN standard 7.1, and we have a toy bike. If I have a maximum saddle height greater than 435 millimeters and less than 635 millimeters in this area, we have a bicycle for young children. In this case, the standard applicable is AN ISO 8098. For another step, if the maximum saddle height is greater than or equal to 635 millimeters and less than 750 millimeters, we have a young adult bicycle. This is practically the same test for the city and trekking bicycle, but the main difference is the lower in the test is lower in this patamar of bicycle. Another, if the maximum saddle height is greater than 635 millimeters, we have in the area of the AN ISO standard 4210, we have the city and trekking bicycle, the mountain bicycle, the racing bicycle, and so on, all types of different conventional bicycle for adults. If I have an electrical bike, the specific EPAC is the same for the maximum saddle height, but the standard is AN 15194. And we have in Europe new types of bicycle, is the BMX bicycles. We have a European standard 16054, and is applied for a maximum saddle height greater than 435 millimeters. This is very important table for define what is your typology of bicycle, and after this you can choose your legal frame and your standard applicable. Okay, I hope you understand that. What Abimota laboratory support? I think in Abimota we have a different approach for this sector, and we consider we can support from A to Z, all the range for the support in this area. For example, we can start work with the manufacturer in the selection of the raw materials. We have a good capacity for harness test, for example, Rockwell, Vickers, and Brindle test, mechanical test for determination of main parameters of the mechanical characteristic of the materials, of the raw materials, for choose the best material for each application. We have also the chemical composite, and we can make a determination for each material, each metal material, what is the all components in there. In the cosmetic area, we have a main few tests in cosmetic or testing in coatings. We have, for example, natural salt spray test, cross cut, rapid deformation test like shock resistance. We have a test for gravel projection, is a good test for evaluate the damage of the stones in the street, the damage in the painter. For example, for the front wheels in the lower two, and we have, for example, thickness measurement test or another one. In area for dimension control, we have different types of tests. We have a three-dimensional measurement with contact or without contact, or a visual system. We have different types of machine of the different approach, different capacity, but our maximum precision is in order to 3 microns. Is a very good precision for these types of products. In the area for equipment calibration, we have different areas for calibration of equipment. For example, dimensional, mass, torque, and pressure. For example, this is an example for calibration of K dynamometric for measuring torque in the assembly of bicycle. Is very important. This is a digital surface with the scanner. This device, this yellow device, is a scanner mounted in the three-dimensional machine, and we can evaluate the surface of the frame. For example, if we can, if you want, we can make the dimension control in the frame before the fatigue test and after the fatigue test, for example, for evaluate what is the deformation. They make the different fatigue test. They support this test, but they have deformation. We can say for the manufacturer what is this deformation. This is our approach for the bicycle. When we look for the conventional bicycle and we need to evaluate the compliance with the AN standard 4210-2, this is the all vision we look for bicycle. We make the test for the cranks and pedals, for the front fork, for the brakes, for the making in the instruction, handlebar steam, general things, very few general things for the frame. The frame is the main component in the test. The saddle and the Seat pillar or the Seat tube. The mud guards if they have mud guards. The drive system and the wheels, rims, tires, and tubes. For each component, we have a different part of the standard, the family standard AN ISO 4210 for evaluate the conformity of these components. This point of view is the resistance evaluation, the conformity evaluation is the same for all types of bicycle. Children bikes, adult bikes, for the APAC, the difference between each one is the load in the test, or a few tests is similar, but a little difference in the frame. But the approach is very similar in terms of resistance. If we look specific for the APAC, we make all the tests we do for conventional bikes, but we have a different approach because we have different equipment not present in conventional bikes. For these type of bikes, the APAC, the applicable standard, I say a few minutes. The standard is European standard 15194. We apply also the machinery directive, the Roche directive, and the MC directive, specific for all the bike, the complete bike. Specific for display, for this device here, we must comply the Roche directive and AMC. For me, it's very important when the manufacturer assembler a pack bike, they must buy these components with documentation and the label with evidence the conformity of this directive. Is the responsibility of the manufacturer of this device send for you this documentation. If we don't have this documentation, in my opinion, you don't have buy this component for your APAC because you have the big problems in the future. For the battery must comply with Roche. For drive unit for all these area, this system, in the center point, in the rear wheels or the front wheels, we must comply machinery directive, Roche directive, and AMC directive. And don't forget the battery charger. Specific for battery charger, you must comply the low voltage directive. For all these components, my suggestion is when you buy these components for mounted for assembling in your APAC, you must buy with evidence, with the support paper for demonstrate this conformity. And after this, you must have the evidence, just the conformity of the complete bike, the resistance test, the safety electrical test, and the machinery directive. Okay, we must go on. In Abimota, we can make the compliance test. This is the most common situation, assessment of compliance with the requirement of application standard. We send for us your components or your complete bike, and we make the test and say for you, is your components or your bike is in conformity or not with the application standard. But we can also make the product develop test. This is very interesting for us because we can help you develop your products. You can change a few parameters of the test. You can use the standard with a base reference, but we can increase the quality of your product. We have the client say for us, I have a frame for a new bike, but I want to make the test, the fatigue test, for example, 3 times more. Or we can change a little charger. I can make the test until the retour, because I want to know what is the point of the retour of my product. I want to understand this. This test, and we can testing with more demanding requirements than the applicable standard, and we can do it for our client, improve knowledge of the performance of each client. This is a new areas for us. Is a very interesting area. We have main clients interested for this because we can give for us much more information that just the standard is okay or not okay. I hope you understand this. Now, we think work in Abimota is very good because Abimota laboratory is future-proof. Why we say this? Because Abimota represents Portugal in the technical commitments, in the European level, in the ISO level. In the European level is the CEN-TC 233. In the ISO level is ISO TC 149. In this area, we represent Portugal in the review of the standard, in the develop a new standard, all works in this area. In this moment, we know what is the text of the new standard in the near future. We can hope our client to prepare your products for this. Abimota is a member of CONEBI. CONEBI is a European Association for two wheels, and they develop a very good job in this area, in the connection with the European Commission for new legal frameworks, and they have a very good job in this area. Also in the UNCE for new regulation, for mundial regulation, and Abimota represent Portugal and work together with CONEBI. It's very important for us. Abimota is in close liaison with the official national entities that represent Portugal from European Commission. For now, for example, the machinery directive is under revision. The GPS, the General Product Safety Directive, is also in the revision process. And in connection with these official entities in Portugal, we can manifest our opinion and influence the new framework in the near future. For us, working with Abimota is anticipation the future. Okay, and for me is all. I hope you understand my bad English, and that's all for me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Luís Pires. Of course, we understood your English, but now it's time to listen to Jill Warren, CEO of ECF, European Cyclist Federation. Jill Warren, be welcome with us.
Thank you very much. I'm trying to share my screen. Can you see my screen? Can you see my presentation? Hello?
We can see it.
I don't know if you can see can you see my slides? I have shared them, but I don't know if you can see them. Just checking if you can see my presentation.
Yes, we can see your presentation.
Excellent.
You're
okay.
very welcome, and go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. I'm very glad to be here today to talk about regulations and standards for bicycles and cyclists from the user perspective. So who are we? The European Cyclists Federation is the umbrella federation of over 60 organizations in over 40 countries. We advocate and work for more and better cycling across Europe. We promote cycling as a sustainable and healthy means of transport and leisure, and bring together the European cycling movements. We want more people to be able to experience the positive impacts of cycling. And it's so much more than just cleaner air and less pollution. We can also have better safety, better public health, more livable cities and towns, also better rural connectivity. Our tourism and leisure options are much better when we've got the conditions for good cycling there. Cyclists spend more money than people taking their cars to shops, for example, and more cycling also leads to more inclusive societies. We have some very specific goals for this decade. One is to increase cycling levels in Europe by at least 50%. And we know that most of that increase needs to come from European countries where cycling levels are still presently low. We want cycling to be safer, so many fewer deaths or serious injuries in road collisions caused by cycling. We want politicians and policymakers to prioritize cycling as a sustainable and healthy part of the mobility mix. And we also want higher investment, and we concentrate our lobbying efforts at the EU level. And we want to achieve about 6 billion investment, if not more, in cycling measures from EU structural funds in the current budget cycle. So how do we influence all of this and try to achieve our goals? We conduct evidence-based advocacy, coalitions and campaigns. One of the coalitions that we build is with other cycling organizations such as CONABI and CIE and Cyclogistics and the International Mountain Biking Association and others, so that our voice is stronger. We do innovative research, which can be very powerful in showing policymakers why it's a good idea to do things to improve cycling. We provide tools and resources and trainings. We coordinate the Eurovelo cycle route network. And we also organize Velo City, which this year is taking place in Lisbon from the 6th to the 9th of September. We're very delighted about that. So now I'd like to talk about bicycle standards, not so much from the technical perspective, which Luís just did very, very well, but more about how we view them from a consumer and user perspective. So basically, we want there to be safe conditions. We also want there not to be unnecessary regulatory overreach or other barriers for cycling through regulation. So the ISO standard that applies to conventional bicycles and other bicycles that was mentioned. From our consumer and user perspective, ECF believes this works well and provides a good environment for safe bicycle manufacturing and use. When we look at e-packs and pedelecs, it's very important to us that these are legally classified as a bicycle, considered to be a bicycle, and that that also means that use of a helmet is not mandatory and that they can use the cycle path infrastructure. We also do not want them to be subject to insurance, license plates, or driving licenses, and that otherwise the bicycle standards apply. So these are for e-packs that can go up to 25 kilometers an hour. In terms of cargo bikes, so we would note that the ISO 4210 excludes cargo bikes from the scope. There are separate or newer German and French standards, but not an EU-ready standard yet, although that's on its way. We support this work because I think, as you've all maybe noticed, the sales of cargo bikes are increasing very rapidly. We think that they have a huge potential to replace car trips and delivery vehicle trips. And having good standards support not only their safety, but also the further proliferation as part of the sustainable and healthy transport mix. So speed e-packs. Clearly, we view these in a different category because of the speed that they can reach. And that means that they are subject to different standards, different regulations, and we would agree with that from the perspective of safety. This slide here just kind of shows the whole spectrum, I guess, of e-bikes and how they're treated from a regulatory perspective in the simplest way we could think of to depict that. And now I would like to spend a few minutes just talking about how we see not only the regulations we've just talked about, but some others, also a couple that were mentioned at the end of Luís's presentation. So very important, we pay a lot of attention to how e-packs are defined in legislation and in regulation. So again, we want e-packs to be seen as a bicycle, meaning that they can use the cycle paths. They are not subject to mandatory helmet laws, no licenses. The danger, if they were to become classified as motor vehicles, then they could be stripped of the bicycle-like advantages. This would increase costs for industry and consumers, we think, and could be a very huge barrier to what's been a very big success story in terms of opening up cycling to so many more people of all ages and abilities, and really replacing, many motorized vehicle car trips, which we think is great. Recently, or the last few years, I should say, we've been doing a lot of lobbying, as has Konabi, in relation to the EU Motor Insurance Directive. And we had a victory to claim there just about 1 month ago that e-bikes will be excluded from compulsory motor vehicle insurance. We had to do a lot of lobbying because the proposal put out by the European Commission in 2018 defined the scope of motorized vehicles to also include e-bikes. So we spent many years arguing that the e-pack is a bicycle, not a motor vehicle, that the damages that e-bikes may cause in crashes wouldn't be high enough to justify mandatory insurance, and that the mandatory insurance would be counterproductive in creating barriers to their sales and use and enjoyment by people. And the scope of that original proposal, we're happy to say, was overturned in June 2021. So you see the importance of advocacy from the industry and the consumer perspective to make sure that we achieve these goals. So the general safety regulations is something that we look at as well as the European Cyclist Federation, and here our goal is to improve the safety of vehicles for those outside the vehicle, meaning how can we make sure that cars and trucks are safer for cyclists? And so we lobby to make sure that things like intelligent speed assistance or the AEB, autonomous emergency braking, blind spot detection, and the front end design all would lead to increased safety for cyclists who have to share the road with these vehicles. So some of that work is done at the UNECE level, some at the European Commission level, depending on the specific regulation, and we follow these developments and give our input, on a regular basis. Something else we're looking at is the EU Driving License Directive, which is up for review. So this directive is a harmonized license model with minimum requirements for obtaining a license, including everything from age limits to vehicle classifications. We are in favor of a graduated licensing system, similar to what you've got applicable to motorbikes, whereby novice or beginning drivers won't be allowed to drive big, powerful, more dangerous vehicles until they've gained experience. We also do not want reduction in age limits for obtaining a license because, the younger drivers statistically do cause more crashes and things, and this is dangerous for the vulnerable road users. And we also want new technologies to be part of that training process, also to increase safety for vulnerable road users like cyclists. Last but not least, something very close to our hearts is speed limits. So wherever cyclists have to share the road with cars and trucks, motorized vehicles, we think that in built-up areas that a standard speed limit of 30 kilometers per hour is a very good thing to have, because the improvements in safety that you get from this speed level are enormous compared to 50 kilometers an hour or 60 kilometers an hour speed limits. So we're very much in favor of a greater proliferation of these kinds of speed limits. Having said that, even better is to have separated, protected, coherent, direct, very good cycling infrastructure, and we lobby very forcefully for that. But everywhere where cyclists are sharing the road with cars, we think that 30 kilometers an hour is enough in terms of a maximum speed limit. So that's the end of my presentation. I hope that gave you some insight into how we view standards and regulations from the user perspective. So thanks very much. I'll stop sharing.
Thank you, Jill Warren. Please stay with us a little bit more. First, we are going to listen Cyro Gazola, da ABRACICLO, a Brazilian association of manufacturers of motorcycles, mopeds, scooters, bicycles, and similar. Cyro Gazola, welcome.
Thank you, Abimota team. Let me see if I can share with you a screen here. I had also sent you, I'm not sure if you're able to, can you see the slides that I put on? I'm not sure there.
Yes, we have them. Please go ahead.
Okay, so if you can, are you guiding the slides or I am guiding the slides? Yes, Pedro, just to check. Yes, are you guiding the slides or I am guiding the slides here?
We can guide the slides, no problem.
Yeah, if you can guide the slides and help me out, because then I'll, so first of all, good morning to all of you. I'm Cyro Gazola. I am the Vice President of the bicycle segments for ABRACICLO, and also combine my role as the CEO of Caloi, which is a division of Global Derail Sports here in Brazil. It's a pleasure to be talking to you. I'm going to, test your Portuguese skills a bit on the presentation. It was designed by our ABRACICLO team, but I will focus on English and be able to guide you through. So if you can take me to the next slide, please. And this is just to show you, who's ABRACICLO. ABRACICLO is the association that is connected to the interests of all the leading manufacturers of motorcycles and bicycles in Brazil, which are all established in the Manaus industrial zone. Manaus became, a huge industrial zone for Brazil in the last, 50 years. ABRACICLO has been established there since the mid 70s, and today is represented by all these, as you can see in the picture, top 10 motorcycle manufacturers. They represent 98% of the industry in Brazil. And in the case of bicycles, is a bit more fragmented. These top 4, so Caloi, who's part of the Rail Group, Houston, who's part of Audax, Houston Audax, Sensi and OG, part of Ox, they are all based there. And just for your information, they represent about 20%, in specifically talking about bicycles, 20% of the production generation of Brazil on an annual basis, but about 40% of the value, because the industries in Manaus are very skewed towards mid and high-end products, and I'll talk more about that. So the next slide, please. So this one gives you a bit of a view of both the motorcycles and the bicycles segments. We've been established there, as I said, since the mid-1970s. Brazil has quite a large fleet today. It's nearly 30 million motorcycles, 70 million bicycles. Production for motorcycles are topping on the area of 1 million motorcycles per year. In the case of bicycles, last year was a huge reduction because of the crisis. We had the industry stopped manufacturing between 2 to 3 months, but we are back on track this year, and I'm going to show it to you, and we're heading hopefully back to closer to also 1 million production in Manaus. We are among the top 10 manufacturers of both segments there, and combined there, we generate in Manaus alone about 14,000 direct employment posts. And if you take that into account, all the supplier industry, the numbers are 3 times that. And we supply from Manaus. I mean, one of the big challenges of being in Manaus, obviously, is the challenge of attending all the rest of Brazil. Manaus is about 2 to 3 to even more thousand kilometers away from the centers of consumption in Brazil. So go ahead to the next, just to give you a highlight. Go to the next one, and this is just to give you a highlight. Then specifically about the national bicycle industry. In terms of employment, if you look at the total country, we generate about and this has been, despite prior to the crisis, increasing. Brazil had a crisis there in terms of employment generation. This first yellow part there called the empregos is employment. So employment took a hit during the years that Brazil went through a tough crisis in 2015, 16. We started, growing again up to 2019. We don't have all the updated numbers for 2021 yet, but at least we know from the bike industry, particularly in Manaus this year, that we have been able to start employing again and generating employment as we are navigating the crisis. Now, one important factor is Brazil has not only a few dozen manufacturers of bicycles, but if you add the true full conversion manufacturing and assembly, the country has over 300 companies there in Brazil that are involved directly with either full manufacturing or assembly of bikes. And the reason is we have several what we call bicicletarias or bike shops across regions of Brazil that do assembly of bikes, particularly with focus on the low end up to the bottom of mid-end bikes. So it's quite broad. However, the market is concentrated with a few dozen manufacturers. I mean, leading from Manaus, but also in other regions of Brazil, we have manufacturers scattered there. Next. You can see in this, it's a total national production with the estimates, because we don't have what we call the Federal Brazilian Institute, IBGE, yet, the numbers, but we estimate we had production that during the early years there, as you can see, 2012 to 13, hit a mark of about 5 million bicycles, and we had a crisis. We were able to navigate a bit decline, and then starting on 2019 and 20, we have been estimating the market started growing again, and despite the crisis last year, we were able to grow given many challenges. Now we estimate this year, it's not over yet, but this will be a year where recovery is starting little by little. Next. Yeah, go on. This is a view of what's in Manaus these days with these leading 4 industries. We have today manufacturing capabilities there. Fortunately, given hundreds of millions of reais investments in the last 10 years, there is on par with global production elsewhere in the world. We have robot-based wetting. We have laser cutting machines for alloy and steel. We do have also assembly of carbon-based wheels, T4 treatment, clear coating, painting, and all types of technologies, and even an assembly line dedicated. For example, in the case of my company, Canondale is only made in 2 parts of the world, between Asia and the Netherlands, but we also have in Manaus an assembly capability dedicated to a global brand, which is just to reinforce how much we have been investing to have capabilities to drive mid and high end bicycle in Brazil. Next slide. And this is just some examples of what's happening in terms of investments with these brands and then trying to be on par Brazil. And we have examples here of mostly mountain bikes, being analog, being e-bikes, which we have been investing both hardtail and full suspension, but more and more, and I'll talk more briefly about this, Brazil has been becoming, a country of mountain bikes, and I'll talk more. So the next slide, just to show you. And this is a summary just to show you. So what's happening this year, and particularly, you can see there on that upper part of the slide, the graph with the blue line there representing 2020 and the orange line 2021. Fortunately, we started, even with all the challenges of supply chain that Brazil is facing, no different than what's happening in Europe, in North America, in Asia, with the issues we're facing, but we're starting to now navigate production, particularly in the last few months, as you can see in April, May, June, after the base of nearly, very low base production, after we had to stop factories, not only in Manaus, but across other parts of Brazil. And more, so this year, as you compound, we're now growing 42% ahead of last year. We're still, concerned about the projections for the second semester because it will depend on supply chain. We started the year projecting to grow about 13%. We believe those numbers are going to be far greater than that. We're just now updating the numbers, or we're getting more and more certainty of what the supply will be until the end of the year. And as you can see, the bottom part on that green chart there shows that today, the development of mountain bike manufacturing. Mountain bike became the key bicycle for Brazilian consumers, and particularly because the quality of pavements is not ideal in many parts of the country, and a mountain bike, being in steel, alloy, or carbon, is flexible, is a bike that you can use for leisure, for your sports on the weekend, for family use. So mostly those between mountain bike and urban and leisure, those are the top leading items that we've been producing in Brazil more and more. Go on. So this is just to show you how production is distributed across Brazil, and no doubt, Brazil has a very strong consumption there in what we call the southeast, which is where approximately this year, in particularly, 60% of all the focus in terms of production has been going on with, and this is where São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, Minas Gerais, and the key states are there, but also the south, and more our focus is to be developing the north and northeast consumptions in Brazil. So it's just a guide. Next slide, please. And just to reinforce to you, that as part of the efforts we've been doing in the last few years in Brazil, we have also created since last year, and particularly not only to connect with society, but also with government, across all parts of Brazil, to reinforce the importance of the, bicycles made in Amazonia. We created a campaign that's been going in the air in paid, TV news channels across Brazil, in YouTube, Instagram, and all over, to reinforce the importance of generating, wealth, generating employment, generating, focus of making bikes, and how important that is for the Amazon as well. And then last slide, just to reinforce a few, go on. A few positive points and points of attention from our side, just to highlight to you in the industry. On the positive points, it's been very important for Brazil to, just to restart growth in the local market here after the severe crisis we had back in 2015 to 17. The companies altogether have been making investments of new factories, of new production lines, capability, machinery, huge capex investments in the area of hundreds of millions. And this is, really paying out as we are now see even the development of this industry. We are more and more focused in meeting the needs of our Brazilian consumers. They want better products. They want products with technology on par with global standards. So we have both local brands in Brazil, but also, global brands who are competing on an equal basis. We have a huge commitment, not only from the Manaus Free Trade Zone industries, but across Brazil in investing in sports. And we're very proud to have, in the last few years, generated our first global MTB XCO champion as Rick Avancini, who's one of our key athletes, representing also the country now in the Olympics. But it's key. It's very important to invest to, really promote cycling to the youth. And this is being happening very positively. And then we're happy to see the acceleration in demand, what happened into 2021. We still see there's going to be mileage to go into 22, maybe 23, but it's important. The society in Brazil started to adopt the bike as a means of transportation, as a means of leisure, of sports, of personal use, more and more, and this is very positive. Now, points of attention. Lots happening in the area of government, affairs in the last few years, and a lot of discussions about, reforms, being in taxes, being in future reforms, administrative, tax, fiscal reform that's going on. And there's some points there that can be, if we're not really, engaged in defending, national manufacturing, that can be concerning to us. Now, we still have, the country has an opportunity to expand the infrastructure of, for cycling. So cyclopaths, cycleways, you all who are focused in Europe there have a reality that's very different than us. Today, Brazil, if you add it all together, officially, we may have anywhere between 6,000 to 7,000, kilometers of cyclopath, cycleways, which is very small compared to just the sheer infrastructure of roads in Brazil. It doesn't penetrate maybe 4 to 5%. Still, it has grown, but still very low. And we're managing a supply chain crisis also right now, because it's very tough to have predictability with suppliers. It's being a challenge. And at the same time, the inflation of raw materials is another area that's keeping us awake at night, because it's far outpaces the normal base inflation for the country here. So we're having to do that while not penalizing the consumers with multiple price increases. So a lot of tension in the supply chain, pricing, costing area right now. And this is it. It's a brief update just to give an idea of what's happening in the latest in Brazil. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cyro Gazola. And now let's start with the questions and answers. And we do have a first question for Luís Pires. Luís, under the perspective of Portugal Bike Value, why should a structure choose Leia, laboratory of Abimota, and now another one, and not another one? What kind of advantages does it have for Portugal Bike Valley?
Yes, thank you for the question. For us, the most important for shoes to work with Abimota is exactly our capacity to help the manufacturer just the raw material until the finished product. Make the compliance test, make the develop test, have the information of the future in the next years, and if the manufacturer work with us, we can obtain all this information. Our capacity is very diversified. We have a good networking with knowledge center in Portugal. We have a good connection with Aveiro University, Coimbra University, Porto University. We have a good connection with this entity, and we hope our client to develop our products to increase the quality, the value, and make a difference in the market.
Thank you very much, Luís. Under a technical point of view, and the next question is for Cyro Gazola. What norms do you apply in Brazil, and how can you compare them with the ISO and the EN norms?
Well, we apply norms which are very similar to the ones you're applying in Abimota. We actually have cases where, for example, in the case of our companies like Caloi or Oxbike, we're suppliers of we manufacture bikes for Decathlon in Brazil, and these are all have to pass through also alignments of technical standards with Abimota. But here in Brazil, we have also the local, regulation that is connected not only with ABRACICLO but with CIMEFRE and technically based. So we try to be as much aligned with what's happening on a global basis as it is possible.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Jill Warren, what perspective ECF has for the future, where the bicycle and the when the bicycle and the PMD share space and share infrastructures?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we have to make it as safe as possible for the cyclists, because they are the vulnerable road users. They are the ones who are most likely to get very seriously injured or killed in a crash or collision. So the very best solution is protected and separated cycling infrastructure. But where we can't have that, we want the reduced speed limits. And we also want just a general more reallocation of precious public space given over to cyclists and pedestrians. Because if you look around, and I think the pandemic made this very clear, so much of our public space is just given over to cars. And I think we're seeing a revolution in, people aren't going to continue in that direction. We're actually going to go back and see how we can have a more equitable and fair distribution of space that makes for more livable cities that people want to be part of.
Thank you very much. One more question, Jill Warren. We received this question a few seconds ago. Is it correct to consider a bicycle as a personal mobility device?
Goodness, I haven't thought about that specific definition, but I would probably say, yeah, as a personal mobility device. I mean, certainly if you're using it for mobility and it's yours, why not?
Cyro Gazola, we've been listening about security, about safety, most important. And a few moments ago, you said that in Brazil there's still a very long way to be done in infrastructures. Are there any plans to make it better?
We have associations, not only ABRACICLO, that's representing the Manaus Free Trade Zone, and also Aliança Bike that also covers a great part of other manufacturers across Brazil. Both these associations are actively influencing and discussing programs and promoting the increase of infrastructure across Brazil. In the case of ABRACICLO, we try also to support even with technical ideas and support for other parts, governments, state governments, municipal governments, to be able to grow that infrastructure. Now, investing there it's similar to how we invest in education, infrastructure, and safety. It has to be part of government agenda, and we believe it's getting more and more. And this pandemic has increased the awareness now of how much bicycles have taken adoption across the country. So we believe the future is brighter, given the fact that now we see more and more Brazilians needing to use bikes, really promoting the usage of bikes. So the society and the realities of this pandemic is happening, that the development to be strengthened as well.
Thank you very much. It's nice to end with a positive note. Thank you very much, Cyro Gazola, and of course, thank you very much, Gil Warren and Luís Pires. We'll be back later when it's 3 o'clock p.m. local time. I'm speaking about Portuguese time, of course. So later we'll be back again. Be welcome later, of course. Thank you to be with us.
Thank you.